Guys, boom. We're going to come in with the MAGTAF, the Marine Air Ground Task Force. We're going to come in from the air, the ground, and our supporting elements to help these guys push through the enemy, and we're going to destroy them, right? All right, I went to school for lawyering, not for drawing, so you'll have to just figure it out. This is a helicopter. Here on the ground, we got tanks, and we got dudes with guns. All right. Back here, we got some indirect fire.
This is so much better than my tree.
All right. So. We're not just going to tell these guys to march right into the mouth of the enemy, right? That wouldn't be smart. So it's just kind of like doing the dishes, right? When you got a real grimy pot, you let it soak in the soap for a little bit, soften up, and then you come through and scrub it out, right? So that's exactly what we do, but with fire and maneuver. So we'll start here with our artillery, right? So artillery is everything that is indirect fire, so mortars, artillery, missiles, things that can be shot from a long distance and hit the enemy well before you ever get there, right? So if you've ever seen pirate movies or whatever where they're firing cannonballs before they start fighting, think of it like that. So we start lobbing artillery at these guys, right? Bad guys are like, oh no, what's happening? All right? Then while that's going on, these guys are going to come in with their fighter jets and their helicopters, and they're going to start raining down pain on these guys at the same time. All right? So now these guys are just like, what just happened? While that's happening, now these guys on the ground are going to move through and eliminate anyone that's here. Yay. And while that's going on, these guys are going to use their trucks and their logistics to make sure that these guys have beans, bullets, and Band-Aids, right? Food, fuel, water, ammunition, medical care, a place to sleep, a place to go to the bathroom, everything that you need to live, because you're not always just fighting, right? You still got to live. So these guys right here keep them supported so that they can keep fighting through these guys without having to stop. And then once they clear these guys out, a big occupational force like the Army will come in because they're a much larger component than we are. They have a lot more manpower than we do. So they'll come in and they'll occupy and keep this territory. And the enemy will not be allowed access back in there. And that, in a nutshell, is how the Marine Corps wins wars using the Marine Air Ground Task Force. All right? I just threw a lot of stuff at you, and we're almost out of time, so I think the best thing we can do is turn it over for some questions, all right? So let's start right here in front.
What's your scariest experience as a Marine?
So the scariest thing that probably happened to me was my first or second week in Afghanistan when I was in my truck driving and a bomb exploded on our truck. And fortunately, we were very lucky because the truck had a lot of armor. And the bomb was not as big as some of the other bombs, so everybody inside was able to walk away. Yeah. But it was definitely a hairy day. Next question. Wow, you guys have a lot less questions than the last two groups. I guess you guys must just know everything, huh? You look like you got something burning on your mind. What you got?
Have you ever fought with women? Have there been women in your unit?
Yes. So there's a lot of stuff going on about women in combat now and all that stuff. But let me tell you, women have been in combat for years. So I actually belong to the logistics component. So we provide support to everyone else. And you know, I have a lot of guys in the logistics field that have seen just as much combat action as the guys here. You know, while they're driving their trucks to keep these guys supplied, they're getting shot at, they're getting blown up, they're getting attacked just the same way that these guys are. And I've had women drivers, women in support elements, and they've been in combat and they're decorated for combat as well. One of my best friends is probably one of the most decorated combat veteran Marines that I know. And I was with her in Afghanistan and she was ferocious. So yeah, I have fought alongside women. I have fought women because when we do our martial arts, we have to fight against each other. So we're required to reach a certain level of skill in our martial arts. And we don't separate the boys and the girls. Everybody trains together. So I might be fighting a 250-pound guy. I might be fighting a 150-pound girl. It doesn't matter. Everybody's got to learn to fight, right? You can't always pick your enemy. It's not like if we go to war, I can be like, oh, he's kind of big. Can I fight the small guy over here? That's not how it works, all right? Right here, gap.
What are the obstacle courses like? Like, what are the things that you have?
So the obstacle course, second video, there was a guy jumping over. So usually you start by, there's a couple bars you got to flip over, and then there's some things you got to shimmy down, and there's some walls and stuff you got to jump over, and if you get to the very end, there's a rope you have to climb up. I think it's like 20 feet or something like that. You got to climb up. And then there's also variations, right? So sometimes we'll do a double O course, and then sometimes you'll have to do the O course with all your gear on. So you're carrying 100 pounds worth of stuff, and then you have to do the O course with 100 pounds of stuff. Tori.
Have you ever gotten, like, seriously hurt? Like, really, really hurt?
Yes. Next question, right here.
When did you know that you wanted to be in the Marines?
So, I actually wasn't born in the United States. I was born in Trinidad and Tobago. When I moved here, I was about 9 years old, and I became when I finally became a citizen of the U.S. I really wanted to do something to give something back to the United States because I really enjoy living in this country. And I thought to myself, how could I do that? And my best friend, he was like, hey, I'm going to join the Marine Corps. I was like, what is that? He's like, well, it's kind of this place where everybody's just the best at everything, or at least they think they are, and they try to be the best at everything they do. I was like, man, that sounds great. Sign me up. And so I was probably about 17 years old, but I didn't actually go to boot camp until I was about 26. Yeah, so I got there a little late.
Where was that? For the war?
What's that?
Where were you born?
Trinidad and Tobago. It's in the Caribbean.
Yeah. For the war, what did the veterans usage try to do?
Well, luckily for us, there's no other military in the world that is as well equipped or well trained as we are. And if they did, then we'd have to adjust our strategy to work. Yeah,
This is like one comment and then a question.
sure thing.
So the obstacle courses allowed you to practically be like a monkey.
Yes.
So that's really cool. And the second question is, when you guys would do training, obviously it was like hardcore workouts because according to the video, you guys are really built. So on average, and this is a very weird question, how many push-ups would you guys do per day?
So I usually try to do no less than 100 push-ups per day. There's times where I'll do a little bit more than that. But usually on average, I try to do 100 push-ups a day and somewhere between 20 and 30 pull-ups a day.
If you can go back to
There's guys who do a lot more than that.
I think 15
if
is
you
a
could
lot.
go back to when you were fighting
Mhm.
or in training, what advice would you give yourself?
If I could go back to wartime, what advice would I give myself?
And training when you're
Okay, so what I would do is I would probably tell myself the best piece of advice I could give myself is to be prepared for anything, right? So he brought up a good point, like what if the enemy doesn't do what you want them to do? You have to adjust. You can't just quit, right? Because in our line of work, if you quit, then you die. It's not like working at the Waffle House where you can just be like, I quit, and you stop serving your waffles. If you're in a foreign country and you quit, you will die. So the advice I would give myself is don't try to plan for everything, but just be flexible. Learn how everything works, so if you need to adjust your plan on the fly, you can, and that will make you able to respond to different situations quicker and will in turn produce better results.
So like your dad gives good advice.
And you can use that in your regular life too, not just in war. Right here.
So what's the worst injury you've ever gotten?
Yeah.
Well,
Face.
all right, I'll gross you guys out for a little bit. So I don't know if you can see this, but there's a scar that goes all the way up my arm, and that's because I had this arm severed. But it wasn't in war. It was something totally different.
Okay. What was it?
Gap. We're getting a little sidetracked, guys. Let's focus. Focus.
So late, you're cracking up.
What was it?
I had my arm severed. I was in an accident. I was in a climbing accident, and my arm was severed.
What kind of climbing accident?
Do you have any questions not related to severed arms? Yeah. Okay, right here.
What was the worst like gone wrong?
There was a time where we were coming through a relatively peaceful part of the northern part of the Helmand province in Afghanistan, and for just whatever reason, the guys that were out there, like almost every bad guy in the country just happened to be in that one spot on that one day, and they just opened up on them, and they were prepared. You know, they were obviously prepared for an attack at any time, but not an attack of that caliber, because we'd never seen one that big in the entire country before, in the entire time that we'd been there. So, you know, we were able to make it through and bring everybody home, but it was we definitely got rocked a little bit. Back in the corner.
During boot camp or Black Friday or whatever happened there, would anyone ever be kicked out because they slacked off too much or didn't do enough or didn't do something?
So the answer to that question is yes, right? But it's a little bit different. In boot camp, they try to ensure that everybody makes it through. And so if you need to be held back to receive extra training, they'll do that.
I guess.
They'll do that. OCS is a lot different. OCS is a lot like, who watches reality TV? You should all be ashamed of yourselves. It rots your brain. It's terrible, all right?
I know.
But you can be voted off the island, right? So your instructors that are evaluating you, they could just be like, hey, this guy doesn't have what it takes. Boom, get him out of here. And you're done. You can volunteer to drop on request because Marine officers have some of the toughest job of leading troops in combat. So we need only the best of the best. So if you don't want to be there, you're gone. And then all your peers, so like imagine if everybody in this class got to vote on who they wanted to kick out of the class.
She's pointing at you.
So
Sorry.
they have peer evaluations, and you can be dropped from the training program if you get voted off. But I think the next class is here. Thank you guys for coming. I hope you.
Thank you.
hope you had a good time.